NWA World Championship Wrestling on January 4th, 1986. There was Dusty Rhodes gets even for the late September 1985 incident, which was part one of the formation of the Four Horsemen. It was back then in a steel cage match in Atlanta Omni where Ric Flair had been facing off Nikita Koloff, and the Russians go triple team him. Dusty Rhodes comes out and help him, but I guess Ric Flair didn't want his help, and the Andersons chain locked the door and with Ric Flair triple team Dusty and breaking his ankle. Well, Dusty gets even, and on January 1st at the Omni. Dusty Rhodes and Road Warriors defeated Ric Flair and the Andersons by disqualification. But there's no steel cage involved. This I find very interesting. And Dusty Rhodes takes out Ole Anderson with a similar injury. Figure four leg lock, dropping down on Ole and kicking his ankle, kicking his legs. But the thing is, there's no steel cage. And Ric Flair and Arn Anderson are acting like, no, okay, they're getting pushed back and kicked down and whatnot by Paul Ellering and the Road Warriors. I find it disturbing, no steel cage, and I'm just looking back at this video, there's not much for Flair and Arn Anderson they're not fighting back whatsoever. They're acting like they're completely knocked out. They're very vaguely even fighting back. Dusty Rhodes and Road Warrior Animal we're working on Ole Anderson's leg, and Dusty put him in a figure four leg lock. It's maybe a minute of video, but I find it disturbing that they didn't do it in a steel cage format where they could hold off Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Ric Flair and Arn Anderson whether it's Road Warrior Animal and Hawk are a couple times kicking Arn Anderson out of the ring. Ric Flair is almost flat out in the ring, and it's not much of a fight back by Flair or Anderson. So it's almost like Ole Anderson is by himself, where Flair and Arn didn't get up and fight back, despite the fact it's the Road Warriors. But Dusty Rhodes injures Ole's leg with getting kicked around and falling on his leg, and a figure four. Where Flair and the Andersons back in the September 85 cage match, the cage incident in September 85, where they locked the cage door, and white heat occurred where fans and the wrestler allies of Dusty were trying to get in, and it was a massacre on Dusty breaking his ankle. Here, Dusty Rhodes injures Ole Anderson's leg and puts him out 6 months, and he doesn't come back till June of 86 or July of 86. So I find it strange. Ole Anderson was going to take time off, but I find it strange that the attack on Ole Anderson on this incident, it's not much of an incident compared to the previous one. And Dusty was saying, "You remember what it's like to be in that situation, Ole?" But Dusty, this was they triple teamed you in a cage, chain locked the cage door. Where here, nobody can. Flair and Arn are not fighting, are not doing anything hardly at all to fight off the Road Warriors or Paul Ellering while you're attacking Ole Anderson. But this was part of the opening of 1986, where Dusty takes out Ole Anderson, and it's only so from January through June, it's Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard, and Arn Anderson claiming to be the Four Horsemen. So it's Dusty getting a little bit of a vague revenge of before the Four Horsemen are official, totally official by summer of '86. So it's again, it's the steel cage should have been involved, but they would make it more a vindictive, vicious revenge by Dusty Rhodes to prevent the formation of the Horsemen, despite the fact they've already taken the name with Arn Anderson's famous promo. But beginning of 1986, the Horsemen are born, but they haven't yet started, thanks to Dusty Rhodes. January 4th, 1986. I think this may have been the first actual moment I watched NWA Worldwide Wrestling on this particular episode. David Crockett, Tony Schiavone opening it up, and David Crockett announcing, we have a new national heavyweight champion. Then goes to Tony Schiavone, yes. Dusty Rhodes defeated national heavyweight champion Buddy Landel in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Okay, a couple problems historically known since we, whom besides myself would have watched that episode. There never was an Albuquerque, New Mexico show. I don't think they ever had a show of any kind. Is there an arena in Albuquerque, New Mexico I don't know about? Beside that, they did not go out west until at least the summer of '87. Sorry, they went out west in the summer of '86. Yes, they had I know they had a West Coast show. I think it was August or September of '86, but and then later 1987 with the UWF, they went out west a lot. But this particular why they did this, what it's called a phantom title change. Now Dusty Rhodes the booker, and it was a late December of 1985, I believe, TV taping. Buddy Landel. Okay, the question is, did he show up to the TV taping, or he showed up inebriated? Either he was drugs or he was drinking, and Dusty Rhodes fired him. So he has David and Tony announce that he defeated Buddy Landel for the national heavyweight title. Now, why they couldn't have that on a show in the East Coast? Because there would have been no proof back then for us to confirm that the match ever took place at all. Now there's records. There's historical records, result records of all kinds. Now there's been written proof that the match did not take place or the show took place. But on TV back then, and there's no internet, there's no written results. There may have been written results for out west, but the show never took place at all whatsoever. Match nor show in an alleged arena whatsoever. But it was, I believe, the opening of the January 4th, 1986 NWA Worldwide Wrestling. It was the opening moment that David Crockett, Tony Schiavone announced that Dusty Rhodes defeated Buddy Landel for the National Heavyweight title, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and is what we call the Phantom title change. NWA Worldwide Wrestling, January 4th, 1986. This was my introduction. This very disturbing scene. Despite the fact that there's only a few channels back then, UHF channels, I call surfing channels, just turning the channel knob and come across this incident, and I had a clue what I was watching. NWA Worldwide Wrestling, again, like I said, on January 4th, 1986. It was taped December 28th, 1985. And David Crockett was interviewing Tully Blanchard with Baby Doll, his Perfect 10. And Tully Blanchard's complaining about how, David Crockett's talking about the other wrestlers that would become the part of the Four Horsemen. Always talking about Ric Flair and talking about the others. But he never wants to talk about Tully Blanchard. Then he turns his attention to his valet, Baby Doll. And he starts with, "Where in the world have you been?" And Baby Doll goes to explain that she's been in Acapulco for a Christmas vacation. She was given tickets from James J. Dillon as a Christmas gift from Tully Blanchard. And Tully brings in J.J. Dillon on camera. And Dillon then rebuttals, I love you a lot, Baby Doll, but you have to come up with a better explanation than that. And then, oh my God, then it started. Tully and Baby Doll begin arguing that Tully is not going to allow Baby Doll to contradict what J.J. Dillon says is. And that she's contradicting, that J.D. Dillon is denying, saying that he gave tickets to her to go Acapulco for vacation, and he said it had been. Wow, I remember. Oh my, what's gonna happen here? Baby Doll is pushing and arguing JJ to tell the truth, that giving the tickets to her. And the thing is, I do remember, and despite the fact I only remember this incident as a start as a wrestling fan, I do remember a taping, unless I saw it sometime later in tapes, video somehow, that J.J. Dillon says he is going to be beginning to represent Tully Blanchard and calling it Tully Blanchard Enterprises, and sending Baby Doll on a well-deserved vacation. Apparently, tape is now lost to history. Tully Blanchard's arguing with Baby Doll, that Baby Doll puts his hands on grabs his arm or shoulder and tell JJ to tell Tully the truth. And Tully asks, you'll grab him. And Baby Doll begins yelling no, over and over, for JJ to tell the truth. Then Tully mouths the infamous words, "You're bought and paid for." Baby Doll replies no, over and over, on several times that Tully's mouthing off to her. Then comes the slap. I would label it the slap heard around the world. Boom! It was a slap. Down she goes. He grabs her by the hair. David Crockett tries to intervene, the interviewer. And James Dillon is holding David Crockett back, physically holding him back, because David Crockett doesn't want Tully to be grabbing a woman. Out comes Dusty Rhodes, my introduction to the American Dream. And he pushes Tully off. He tells David Crockett, "Come here with a microphone," and he opens up his jean jacket. And my dad, we have no idea what we're watching. I get he may know it's wrestling, I don't know. But when he sees Dusty, this big size Texas man, my father says, "You're not gonna mess with that big man." And Dusty on the mic yells, "Don't you ever put your hands on her again. She don't belong to you anymore. She belongs to me now." So this is Baby Doll's face turn. Now she is going to line and join Dusty Rhodes with this Tully Blanchard slapping Baby Doll. This is my introduction to professional wrestling. I wouldn't say a man slapping a woman, but that's exactly how it turned out. And I've talked with Nicole Roberts, a.k.a. Baby Doll, on Facebook. And Tully Blanchard has talked about this. Baby Doll's talked about this in interviews. And it's more interesting that since this is my introduction to I never seen Tully Blanchard, never seen Baby Doll or Dusty Rhodes. It took 1 year for this to occur. She debuts with Tully Blanchard in January 1985. And since I did not know being in Philadelphia, I did not know wrestling had already been brought up into Philadelphia, booked into Philadelphia already a year. But again, Tully Blanchard slapping Baby Doll on NWA Worldwide Wrestling was my introduction to professional wrestling. A lot of things happened on January 4th, 1986 in different locations. January 4th, 1986, the Greensboro Coliseum, a 8-man tournament for the vacant NWA World Television title that Dusty had to vacate due to the attack by Ric Flair and the Andersons in September 85. For the first time ever, I was able to see a portion of the videos from that night. Someone had a handheld VHS camera, and I just recently have seen this video covering the entire show, and it's only a 49-minute long video, but you do get to see a majority of the matches in this tournament. In the first round, Tully Blanchard pinned Ron Bass. Um, Arn Anderson pinned Jimmy Valiant. Only the introductions of Black Bart versus Road War Animal are seen in the video, but they end up in a double countout. Wahoo McDaniel would pin Barbarian, Congo the Barbarian. And then, okay, the more interesting thing about this tournament for the TV Championship is that Arn Anderson does not have an opponent. Apparently, he was going to face Black Bart or Road War Animal because he ended up facing Ron Garvin, who wasn't even in the first round. In a stunning upset. Oh my God, it was a dominating match. It was a great wrestling match. Ron Garvin was dominating, kind of. And Arn Anderson does a surprise, kind of a surprise package pin, I call it. It's just it's a strange way of pinning, but Arn Anderson pins Ron Garvin to continue in the tournament. And in the semifinal, the only semifinal, is Wahoo McDaniel defeated Tully Blanchard by disqualification. And it came down to Wahoo McDaniel versus Arn Anderson. Now, majority of this match is seen, but a lot of historical tournament final, a lot of legendary title matches and legendary any kind of match. Sometimes the pinfall is missed, and this one it's so disturbing. There is a highlight video seen on television on I think it was in NWA Worldwide Wrestling. I believe I saw it. That you see a couple of the matches shown, and you see Arn Anderson handed the NWA World Television title that he apparently pinned Wahoo McDaniel. It's so disturbing that it didn't get to see the pinfall of Arn Anderson pinning Wahoo McDaniel. And there were other matches. Strangely enough, in the same show, Harley Race defeated Magnum TA. You do see a clip in this handheld video. Hawk defeated Ivan Koloff. Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes wrestled to a battle to a no contest. It was a pretty good show for a Greensboro Coliseum, but it was highlighted for the tournament for the vacant TV title, which Arn Anderson pins Wahoo McDaniel, and I'd love to have seen it, the pinfall in that match. But we start off the year with new World Television Champion Arn Anderson. January 11th, 1986, at the WTBS studios. I remember this match when it went on. It must have been a clip on Worldwide Wrestling, but it was shown on the TBS Championship Wrestling show. Sam Houston would defeat Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Champion Crusher Khrushchev, one of the Russians. Crusher Khrushchev had defeated Sam Houston for the vacant Mid-Atlantic title back in Starrcade 85, and this was Sam Houston winning it. And with the help of the Road Warriors, and because Ivan Koloff and Nikhil Koloff were interfering, the Road Warriors came in and it kind of helped Houston, and Sam Houston overcame and defeated Crusher Khrushchev to regain the Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship.